Hello, and welcome back to another Monster Monday, a series where I draw a creature from D&D and I talk about its lore and its history and what it's like to fight as well. These videos are based on your suggestions which you leave for me down in the comment section below, and today's suggestion was made by Sharko J way back on my Tarask Monster Monday. And once you've made your suggestion, I add literally every single one to a to-draw list, which my patrons over on Patreon then get the chance to vote on. So they're the ones who decide what order everybody sees these videos in. So if you'd like a bit more control over the videos that you see, you'd like a chance to vote on which monsters I do next, and you'd like to help me make these videos by tipping me anything from the price of a cup of coffee up to whatever you think these videos are worth to you, then I'd urge you to go and check out my Patreon page and join our little Patreon family. But if not, if that's not something that you can do, or not something that you want to do, then please don't worry. I hope you enjoy the video just the same. So let's get started with today's video on the Oni. Lock the door, blow out the light. The hungry Oni haunts the night. Hide and tremble, little one. The Oni wants to have some fun. Hear it scratching on the door, see its shadow cross the floor. The sun won't rise for quite a while. Till then, beware the Oni's smile. I need to apologize for possibly the terrible translation there. I used Google Translate, so who knows if that's accurate. But I thought it sounded cool. And there was actually a little poem, or I suppose a nursery rhyme rather, that is featured in the Monster Manual next to the Oni that apparently children of your D&D world might know. Now, any of you who might have had the pleasure of watching some of the D&D Beyond videos will know that in their Monsters and Villains series, they interview Mike Merles, the senior manager for D&D's research and design team. And in that series, there is one video that they make about the Oni, where they mention the fact that the Oni, as we know them in 5th edition, actually started out life as the Ogre Mage way back in 1st edition. Ogre Mages first appeared in the 1975 Greyhawk supplement, where their artwork depicted them very like the Oni of Japanese folklore. But it wasn't until 4th edition's release in 2007 that these creatures were officially named Oni. The Monster Manual makes mention of these creatures being related to ogres, paying homage to their origins, and just like their Norse-inspired cousins, their creature type is that of giants, roughly the same height as ogres ranging from 8 to 16 feet in, as well as counting as large creatures. And I like to imagine them in the higher end of that scale, being about 14 to 16 feet tall. Now, they're only supposed to be distantly related to ogres, and in truth, aside from their stature, they bear only a passing resemblance to the dim-witted, impatient, and savage ogres that many adventurers will be familiar with, although their appetites are similarly inexhaustible, and their need for meat is typical of other ogres. But we're told that they prefer to dine on the flesh of humanoid children, so maybe they're a little bit more picky. Their appearance far more strongly resembles that of a demon's or a devil's, some kind of fiend. They're enormous, hulking creatures whose skin usually ranges from blue to red, sometimes green, and whose heads sport one or more horns, anywhere between 1 and 3 eyes, and they wear tiger pelts as loincloths. Although the origins of these creatures have never been discovered, it's possible that they may have descended from the union of ogres and demons, or perhaps from the offspring of ogres whose blood and souls had been tainted by demonic magics, much in the same way that the lineages of the ancestors of tieflings had forever been derailed and corrupted. But I'd love to hear how you explain the existence of Oni in your worlds. I love to hear Oni world building. How did the Oni in your campaign come about? Please make sure to leave that down in the comment section if you have a fascinating cosmogony or evolutionary history for these beasts. What we do know about the in-game origins of these creatures largely comes from a Dragon magazine article. An article in issue 349, published in 2006. Which offers a potential source for the corrupted ogres as the offspring of Muaj, Agmari, and Hakuni, the forsaken sons of Vaprak, the patron deity of ogres, a lesser deity residing in the Abyss, whose affair with Othai, wife of the Allfather and mother of all giant kind, led to the creation of the foul ogre race. The same magazine also states that the ancient and savage human clans who worshipped Vaprak, as we were crawling out of the primordial ooze, believed him to be a destroyer god, and often called upon his dark blessings through bloody sacrifices. And through these tainted rituals, unholy, hulking monsters were born as warriors with thick skin, dark claws to human mothers, these marked matrons sacrificing their souls to this ogre god. The Oni of Japanese folklore, where these creatures originate, have a quite different history, however, although their appearances are quite similar. In Japanese legends, the Oni are a type of yokai, yokai being shape-shifting spirits, which are often troublesome spirits, and they appear in many different forms throughout Japanese folklore and mythology. The Oni specifically are seen as bad spirits, often taking the forms of demons, ogres, or trolls in Japanese legends, and are the archetypal villains, the antagonists of Japanese stories. The word Oni is derived from the root word on, which loosely means to conceal or hide, and this gives us our first clue into how the Oni behave, and how we should roleplay them. They're secretive and terrifying stalkers that lurk in the shadows. These beings are the bogeymen in Japanese folklore, striking from the darkness like a horror movie ghost when their prey are at their most vulnerable, at their most terrified. And this is reflected in-game by the Oni's frankly horrifying ability to cast darkness and invisibility absolutely at will. They can use these like cantrips, casting them whenever they fancy. The terrifying and demonic side of the Oni only really occurred, historically at least, due to the synergy and absorption of Japanese folklore by Hindu and Buddhist practitioners during the 6th century, when these religions started to grow in Japan. By this time, these yokai had demonstrated frustrating and troublesome behaviors, not unlike the hobgoblins, red caps, and fairies of European legends. But also they'd started to branch out into stories that tied these spirits to the dead, and presumed that they were the souls of lost loved ones, or of evil men, ancestral spirits, but not necessarily always evil. When Buddhist practice started to gain popularity in Japan, the Oni almost merged with stories of the demonic man-eating Rakshasa, which twisted the Oni into demons who tortured the souls of sinners in hell. And it's this malice that the Oni in fantasy literature, and particularly in D&D, capitalize on. In this merged mythology, they're said to be created when irredeemably bad people die and their skills as violent and horrible people are utilized to punish lesser sinners. They're transformed into the Oni, and they spend the rest of their days smashing the bones and pulverizing the bodies of other unfortunate souls with great iron clubs called kanobo. So what do these demonic, magical ogres look like in D&D? Well, these utterly beastly entities are challenge rating 7 and proudly boast 16 armor class alongside 13 d10 plus 39 HP. And as well as being able to turn invisible at will, they truly capture the ghostly sort of apparition side of their origins with their wingless, supernatural flight. Now this flight only has a 30-foot movement speed, same as their walk, but nothing says terrifying bad guy quite like a sense of slow, looming inevitability, of soundless footsteps, of breaking no traps as they move, as these creatures eerily float towards players, as all horror movie monsters should. They move at the same speed as you. They'll only catch up with you if you look away, trip over, or split up to explore alone. I feel like these guys should have advantage on attacks or something in stereotypical horror movie trope situations. And two lovers split off from the rest of the group to have a romantic interlude. The Oni should suddenly get advantage on attacking them. They're spellcasters, allowing them to cast Charm Person, Cone of Cold, Gaseous Form, and Sleep. All very spooky spells when used to their full potential, specifically to manipulate players or to burst down their health with a ghostly frigid blast. I remember seeing one terrifying cartoon as a kid. I think it was the old Men in Black cartoon. I absolutely loved it. Maybe it was Ghostbusters, I'm not sure. But there was this entity that would float up to the windows and would compel children to open their windows and be abducted by it. by just saying, "Come out and play." And if you heard those words, you would automatically head to the window despite this monstrous sight being there. I feel like that's what an Oni would do. Levitate up to someone's window, cast Charm Person, and convince them to open the window to let the Oni in. Naturally being demonic or perhaps magical in nature, these yogai's attacks count as magical, and they come in the form of a 1d8 plus 4 slash from their talons, or a swipe from a polearm called a naginata, which deals 2d10 plus 4 slashing damage, and it has a multi-attack, so it can make 2 of these moves in its turn in any combination. If you wanted a bit more of an authentic sort of Japanese Oni, you could replace this naginata attack for a slam with a bludgeoning damage great club to simulate the kanabo that these creatures are famous for. But I feel like the naginata is there to give this monster a 10-foot reach attack, so they can slowly chase adventurers and actually catch them fleeing as it matches your running, your fleeing step for step. Now, most importantly, one of its greatest powers of manipulation includes the Oni's ability to use its action to change its shape into a medium humanoid, to infiltrate communities, or to hide among an unsuspecting party of adventurers. This is perhaps a nod to stories of the Oni in Japanese folklore, who often appeared as travelers or pilgrims, and they could be a metaphor for them bringing their trouble with them, otherwise peaceful communities, from far away. Unlike their ogre cousins, Oni are deliberate and intelligent, merciless hunters. They're lawful evil and have intelligence 14 and 15 charisma. More like trolls, they actually regenerate 10 HP per round passively to make them a villain that will always heal and return for you. On top of this, they also sacrifice none of their brutal might, with a strength 19 and constitution 16. They're honestly some of the best and most versatile creatures to create a horror-like atmosphere in-game, certainly with their low challenge rating of 7. In fact, a D&D Beyond article titled "How to Play an Oni Like a Living Nightmare" goes into great detail on how best to scare the absolute hell out of your players. This article suggests using psychological fear tactics on your players, and opens with letting your players know that this beast haunts them and is following them. You should amplify its impact by showing the creature occasionally, showing its effects rather, because to display it physically stops players from building up this monster in their heads. Let them experience the fear that only their minds can conjure. If you do attack, open with a fierce burst of damage, perhaps use the Cone of Cold if you're cornered or discovered by the party, but otherwise you should keep to the shadows, fly above them, stay invisible, keep casting darkness to limit their senses and to pick them off one by one. But then command the battlefield, retreat and regenerate if you get hurt, but stop them from doing the same. Constantly invade their rest times as you lurk invisibly around them so that none of them regain their spell slots or HP. But even if they're not weakened by the time they figure out some method of detecting invisibility, seeing the hidden giant or demonic pilgrim in their midst, you could instead choose to appear as a scared companion or a villager hiding in their party that they need to escort. You could still have plenty of durability and strength to pose as a legitimate threat to your players if they discover you while you lurk amongst them. One tip that I have that didn't actually turn up in the monster manual is that in Japanese traditions, Oni actually have a weakness that's not in the monster manual. There's a festival called the Setsuban Festival, which is practiced every February in Japan, and features people roasting soybeans and throwing them from their houses as they shout, "Oni wa sotu, fuku wa uchi," or "Oni go out, blessings come in." This could be a means of banishing an Oni from a dwelling, or simply driving it from a particular building, protecting those inside. Maybe the Oni is cursed if it's hit with one of these toasted soybeans, and these words are heard by it. Maybe it's a way of casting bless on your players versus this creature. But personally, I'd use this as a way to make sure that players can get a restful sleep if they know this tactic, almost like a magic circle of warding from Oni, or perhaps like refusing a vampire entry to your home. The Oni can't get in, which is why I would need to use Charm Person to try and enter. But that's just something to think about. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I absolutely loved studying this one. I don't know much about Japanese folklore, but I've always absolutely adored the way the Oni look in traditional Japanese artwork. So hopefully I'll find some more Japanese monsters, and I'll get the chance to expand my knowledge of this fascinating culture and of their mythology. If you also enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a little thumbs up, a little like down below, maybe favorite this video, and if you want to help the channel out, maybe share this video with your D&D party or any communities you might be a part of. We can only grow with your help, so thank you very much. Also make sure to subscribe because I make a video like this every single Monday, and if you want to help in a very, very personal way, if you love this particular drawing and you'd like a copy for yourself, alongside all the monsters that I draw each month, if you want a chance to vote on which videos I do next, or to get rewards like one-on-one chats, or exclusive live streams, I'd urge you to head over to Patreon, where backers at all sorts of different levels get lots of different rewards, like the ones I've just listed, but backers at every level get the chance to vote on what videos I do next. And until next time, make sure to always have a bag of toasted soybeans handy, just in case an Oni's dark talons can be seen lurking in the darkness and in the shadows. And happy monster hunting.